Hey, it's finally here. It's Super Friends, the movie. Next time, give me some Wonder Twins and some Samurai, and I will be first in line for that movie. Alright, so Justice League ain't quite Super Friends, but it is a culmination thus far of the DC Cinematic Universe. So far, we've seen movies with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman had her own individual film, but now they have to team up to face the latest villain that's going to be taking over the world, and to do so they need to recruit some new members into their Justice League, and that's where we get introduced to the Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman. Now let me get into what I enjoyed about the movie first of all, and that would be the characters. We're already familiar with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. They are all iconic, you know, everyone knows them and loves them, so I was more curious as to how they were going to introduce the new characters, because thus far they've only been shown in little cameos in that Batman vs Superman movie, so we don't know anything about them really. So that was really what kind of piqued my interest in this film, as to what their characters would be like, what their traits would be, and how they would portray their powers. Now Aquaman I could get on board with. Jason Momoa does a great job of portraying Aquaman. You know, Aquaman always got the shit end of the stick as far as the DC heroes were concerned, because oh, he's only powerful in the ocean, he talks to fishes, blah 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 blah. But he's actually a really powerful guy, and they really did a good job of showing how he could contribute his powers while on land and not only in the water. And Jason Momoa brought a lot of personality to the character.
Just like a bat. I dig it.
And I'm kind of looking forward now to his own individual film, which will be coming up in 2018, I believe. And they showed a little bit of glimpse of his world in Atlantis, and Amber Heard was there as well. So I think that'll be a really good film, so I'm interested in that character, and they did a good job. And then you have the Flash. I've always enjoyed the Flash character. I watched the first couple of seasons of the Flash TV show on the CW, and Ezra Miller, man, I've always been a fan of this guy ever since Perks of Being a Wallflower. He's a fantastic actor, and he brings a much needed levity to the film. He's the young kid who just wants to feel like he belongs somewhere, wants to be part of a team. So he's just coming into this whole thing wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and he just wants to have a sense of purpose, and that's his role in the Justice League. So he did a great job. He had a lot of funny moments. I love the way they portrayed his Speed Force power. So the Flash also will have his own individual film coming up in the next few years, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And then you have Cyborg. Now Cyborg is the weakest character out of the bunch, and I say that because he was written in this film as primarily a plot device. He didn't have any really backstory or personality to the film. I feel like he was basically included because they needed his powers and his technology to further the plot along. And that's where I feel like if you take him out of the next Justice League movie, I don't think the film would be hurt by that. So if they are going to include him in Justice League 2, they really need to give him a better identity. He's kind of like the Hawkeye of the Avengers, where you don't really give a shit about him, and I'm sure the future films they'll try to beef up his character a little bit to make him actually matter. So we'll see where that goes. And of course, just seeing all these characters together, bantering together, fighting together, that's really cool, because you know, these team movies are really fun to watch, whether it's Avengers, X-Men, what have you. You know, they're just fun. So I was really happy to see this group of heroes joining up and then fighting together. That was really cool. I'm afraid that's about it for what I liked about the film. You know, I honestly had a lot of issues with the film, and I think the main problem was just the tone of it. Everyone's always bitching about, oh, DC, you're too dark, you gotta lighten up, make it more funny. I never really had a problem with DC films tone. Yeah, it was a little darker, it was a little grittier, and I was okay with that. I mean, Batman, I mean, shit, the guy's a freaking bat, you know, living underground and stuff, so he's not gonna be popping jokes. In this film, you know, the Flash is supposed to be the funny character, but you got Superman cracking jokes, you got Batman cracking jokes. I mean, what the hell is this? Joel Schumacher world again all of a sudden?
7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
You just don't need that many jokes peppered throughout the movie, and it just didn't work for me. It felt very forced, and that's probably because of the change in direction the movie had to go through, because the original director, Zack Snyder, who's still credited as the director of the film, he had a family tragedy where his daughter committed suicide about midway through the film, so he had to pull out. So what they did was they brought in Joss Whedon to finish the film and go through a whole bunch of reshoots, and Joss Whedon, being the director and writer of the Avengers movies, you know, he brings his little quirks to the film, his sense of humor. So I think that's where you have a little bit of inequality in the tone of the movie overall. And I'll go back to the whole thing about DC films being too dark. And I've got no problem with that once again. My issue with the DC films has been more about the story. You need to make the stories engaging. You need to make the characters people that we care about. And I think the only film that's really done that so far is Wonder Woman. And it shows in this film as well, because the best scene to me in this film was the introduction of Wonder Woman and her opening scene, and it just made me think, man, Wonder Woman, I just can't wait to see her second movie at this point already. It's about, can you create a story that's interesting to me? And Justice League just didn't do that. They have a villain called Steppenwolf. They don't really tell you anything about him. He's just another big, strong CGI monster who wants to take over the world. And that's another one of my issues with the film, is that it doesn't give you anything that you haven't seen before. Everything in the film you've seen. You had that same big old blue beam in the sky. You get the same old powerful alien objects that everyone's going after. You still have the same army of drones that the heroes are fighting, except this time it's some stupid freaking army of termites, which is freaking ridiculous. So everything in the movie in Justice League, you've seen it before in other comic book films. So if you're gonna bring a film to the audience of this magnitude, of this anticipation, you gotta bring something fresh. And this film just doesn't do that. And then you have the action scenes. The action scenes are just poorly done here. The editing is all over the place, especially in the beginning parts of the film, where you have some fights and they'll have someone doing a move, like throwing a punch, and then all of a sudden they'll cut and they'll show the guy reacting to the punch, and there's just no flow or continuity to it, and it suffers all throughout the film. And then you have these battles, these massive epic battles where you're the heroes fighting the villain, Steppenwolf, and the majority of the people in these battles, they're all these strong, invincible heroes or beings, and there's no sense of danger because all that's going on, they're just being thrown around all over the place, they're being smashed, they're being punched out, but because they're so invincible and strong, there's no sense of danger or any sense of, oh, that character's gonna die, oh no, everyone just comes off unscathed. There's no impact at all to the story because of that. So I just couldn't get invested in the film because of that. I was really looking forward to this film. I was anticipating something that could really grab my attention, and I just felt very disappointed after the movie. But it did end on a good note. There are two end credit scenes, a mid credit and a post credit. Both of them are really good, and those of you who are DC comic fans, you'll especially love the end credit scene, so stick around for the end for that. Not gonna spoil it, but it is worth sticking around for. But the film overall just didn't really quite work for me, but it was cool to see these characters, and I'm kind of interested enough to see where they go with it. But the foundation not so strong, so Justice League gets a 6 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching my review, and come back to my channel MC on Film next week for another movie review.